War, physical war, is a very serious issue, and it shouldn't start in some riot.
Lindsey Graham.
Oh, yeah.
So he was on The Daily Show last night, hosted by Al Franken. For those of you who don't remember Al Franken, this guy. Do you have it there? Yeah, that guy. So he said some really dumb things about Ukraine. And this is where you see the increasing disconnect, not just between the deep state, as Alex calls them, or the establishment, if you want to call them that, not just Democrats, but even Republicans who claim to be your representatives, and the average American conservative with our views on the Ukraine, which brings us to this week's Insane in the Ukraine. Alex thinks he's on an acid trip.
No, every time I see the Zelensky clip, and then I know it's real, and I found even more stuff, it's not bad that he's in high heels and leather dancing and grabbing men's butts. It's that the word is there's a lot more than that going on. And so just like Macron, they've been put in power because they're totally compromised.
I miss the days when it was just Dominic Strauss-Kahn got a little handsy.
Exactly. Well, and here's the deal. At least he's not groping small children.
Yes.
Well, yeah,
he's just grabbing men's butts.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look,
I'm not even sure that's him. I
don't even know if that's true.
It did look like him.
So, okay, speaking to Franken, Lindsey Graham, and I want to hear your opinions on this here regarding Ukraine and Russia. And I understand that it's more nuanced, to use the word that a lot of people use when they want to.
You know, Lindsey Graham has a crush on Zelensky.
Okay, so.
A World War III crush. He loves war.
There you go.
There you go.
There's the lad. Because here's Lindsey Graham. Thank you for laying it up for me. Advocating the United States join the war in Ukraine.
Let's find some common ground. For example, Ukraine. We both believe that this is in the vital interest of the United
sucks.
States.
That's common ground, right?
It's a bold move, Cotton.
He should be in jail. How about that? I'm trying to be helpful. I think the Ukrainians need F-16s yesterday. I think I would do more on the military front, but we're in it together, right? I want to help the administration where I can.
So here's something that I know that Al is just going to want to get into, right? Yeah. So Graham wants to send F-16s. Okay, he wants to do more militarily. Here's something that you should know. Not saying this would be why, but Lockheed Martin, the maker of the F-16, is one of the top donors to Lindsey Graham.
Oh, whoops.
And, of course, Graham has other justifications for the unending support of Ukraine, which, look, can we all agree here? Like, this is, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. As far as I'm concerned, these are two bags of crap fighting each other. Ukraine is not a bastion of freedom and democracy, and certainly Russia, I'm no fan of Putin. Not a fan of either. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, that's fair, and this was an entirely avoidable problem.
Yes.
The Slavic Civil War.
Yeah.
I mean, Russia actually started in Ukraine over 1,000 years ago.
Yep.
It's a whole story about how that happened. Then the Muslims took over for a while. All that was left was the Moscow tribe. They came and kicked the Muslims out after 100 years.
Yeah.
Became the big heroes. That's the founding of Russia is in Ukraine. So yes, you've had the Catholic and the Orthodox side for since then, since the liberation, battling for 800 years or so over who's going to run it. And it is an ancient, basically Crips versus Bloods.
Right, exactly.
So they're the same genetics,
yes,
but they're fighting over colors.
And you can say that Putin and his offensive maneuver and him attacking is horrible, but you can also identify that, you know what, there's a certain percentage of Ukrainians who identify as ethnic Russians. In other words, there are some complications here that you may not understand as Americans, and I just don't believe that we should be sending over bodies or money. It's not our war. You comment below and let me know what you think. Of course, Lindsey World War III Graham, that should be his new nickname,
it is,
has other justifications. So let's go through the claims here as to why Lindsey Graham thinks we need to get more engaged.
There's also a lot of irony, too.
Yes, and we'll get into that. So here's claim number one, is that saving Ukraine is the equivalent to saving democracy.
He's trying to destroy a neighboring democracy. He hates democracy, Putin. And I will just say this to President Putin. If you invade the Ukraine, you will destroy the ability of future presidents to treat you and Russia as normal. You'll long for the good old days of the Cold War because every president in the future will pound you. And every Congress in the future will pound you if you dismantle this democracy. So be careful what you wish for,
my
friend.
Pounding.
That's what I was going to say, wishful thinking.
Big into
pound me.
Pound you.
Yes.
Oh, McCain, pound me.
Yeah, dang it. My friends. I'll pound my friends. So.
Get in here. Get on the desk.
Bring it in.
Lindsey, get on the desk.
Lindsey, get on the desk. But not above my shoulders. Not above my shoulders. Pound you on the desk.
You're hurting my legs.
Let's wheelbarrow. wheelbarrow that I can do this. I get it. Just don't say, oh, you're not. No, it's just we're talking about I don't care. Whatever. You can go watch it on Rumble because YouTube can piss off. So here's the truth. Ukraine is hardly a bastion of democracy. Again, all references are publicly available at louderwithcrowder.com. You can check the references below.
They've outlawed all political parties, including ones that are pro-war.
Yep.
They have taken over all the TV, all the radio, all the media, and unified it. If anyone even criticizes the war, they're locked up in camps. And Zelensky's now banned the oldest church in Ukraine, the Orthodox Church.
There's a little bit more to that, though. The Orthodox Church and their ties with Putin, right?
Well, certainly, it's all the same, yeah.
Yeah, but they also, by the way, with all of that said, Ukraine is rated as the second most corrupt country in all of Europe. Russia's number one. That's why I say, let's break off the pool cue and let's have tryouts. I don't care at this point. And by the way, the rankings are determined by public sector corruption. So that includes bribery, unlawful, unethical practices. If you're talking about money laundering, this is something that is well known. It has been documented by even the international governing agencies who really, really want you to go to war for Ukraine. So saving Ukraine is saving democracy? Not exactly.
Not exactly. And by the way, this is the country that wants you to believe Hunter Biden is worth millions of dollars a year on support.
Oh, my word.
Charisma.
Yeah. Here's another truth. Democracy really isn't the main consideration when we're talking about foreign policy here. The U.S. doesn't have the power to defend every democratic movement in the world, nor should we, by the way. We tried, we failed over and over in the Middle East. You guys know that. That worked like a charm, didn't it? Yeah, you can't find it.
Well, that's what I was going to say about the full clip, because before we went live, your producer was showing me some of the clips we're going to be playing, and I'd already seen the clip, but Graham goes on to say, you can't just go and invade countries and rewrite their borders and put in new governments. That's you've got to go to war with a country that does that. And I'm just thinking, wow, the U.S. in the last century is the champion of doing that.
Yeah.
And maybe we had reasons. The point is, by his rules, then the United States is far worse than Russia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that I would agree with it because the United States doesn't take over the land. In other words, I would say proof positive that the U.S. isn't just like Russia would take over Ukraine if they could. The fact is, Canada couldn't stop us if they tried their mighty best. We could take them over by 2 o'clock today. So, yeah, we kind of have these proxy wars, but then we maintain interest in trading as opposed to just actually taking over land.
Well, we just have the corporations take them over. Look, I love America and what's left of it. I'm not saying America is worse than Russia. I'm saying the irony of his statement that you can't just invade countries.
Right. Yes.
What are you doing?
To put a finer point on it. Yeah. No, exactly. Now watch me advocate by proxy invading this country.
He's usually swinging by chandeliers. Attack, invade, invade.
Yes. Like Diddy.
Pound them.
By the way, in World War II, the U.S. allied with the Soviets. Yeah. Right? And we keep allies like Saudi Arabia to hedge against Iran. Sometimes you ally yourselves with bad people. I understand that. The point is that the point is it's not as simple as democracy good, everything else bad, and certainly not as you're applying it to Ukraine and Russia, where neither one really has something like democracy, and they both have leadership that is incredibly bad, which you're not allowed to say in a lot of places on YouTube right now. This may be fact-checked as misinformation, right? Because they've decided to get rid of non-pro-Ukraine. Those were the words, not anti-Ukraine narratives.
Right.
Non-pro-Ukraine narratives. So if you're on YouTube, head on over to Rumble right now. Head on over to Rumble, and of course, we're going to be going for another full 45 minutes or hour with Alex Jones. Free Mug Club all month. louderwithcrowder.com/Mug Club. We can flip them the bird as long as you join.
But do not visit madmaxworld.tv.
Right. madmaxworld.tv at noon Eastern.
Yeah, do not visit.
Because you will not be there.
You're not allowed to go to madmaxworld.tv.
You are not, and you won't be there.
I will not be at Infowars.com or anywhere.
You will not be anywhere.
I deserve to not be there.
Nothingness. All right, let's go on to the next claim with Lindsey Graham. Claim number 2. He says, we have to stand up to Ukraine now, Alex, in order to deter China. Roll clip.
If you believe pulling the plug on Ukraine makes China less provocative, you should not be allowed to drive in South Carolina. So China's watching like
you shouldn't be allowed to drive in South Carolina, Mr. Cataracts in Chief.
I love that was the insult that he threw. You should not
be allowed to drive in South Carolina. Oh, so take away something else that we don't want to do.
It makes me racist if I drive. We just covered this.
Especially if I'm drinking coffee. So here's the truth. Our unlimited support and unwavering support to Ukraine, it actually hurts our ability to deter China. Now, again, this is the idea of short-term gains. Which,
it supercharges China. It unifies them with Russia. It forces them to do deals in oil and gas. And with India, blowing up the Nord Stream only helped Russia increase their overall sales prices. And as you pointed out, almost all of our weapons are now depleted.
Right. That's exactly the point, right? So this is actually a quote, I believe, from Assistant Secretary of Defense for Strategy and Force Development, Elbridge Colby, said that if we could favorably end the war quickly, that would be great, but what realistic prospect is there of that? Sending Ukraine some F-16s is not going to alter that. It's a massive war of attrition, and Russia is gearing up for a long war. And like you just said, here's a really uncomfortable truth. Right, you've galvanized sort of China to side with Russia. We talked about that. We did a whole hour segment not that long ago with you and Ginger Snap. So
Xi Jinping's there right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right now, this very moment.
Yep.
I don't know how to do the time difference. I can't go through the anguish of adding 6, whatever the hell it is. So supplying the Ukraine with weapons, look, this is something that you need. The economy is not a zero-sum game, right? You can build more pies. You can't just build more carriers. You can't just build more. It's very expensive. It depletes our weapons stockpile. Yes. So this was also something Colby commented on, saying, arguing right now that we must defend Taiwan by defending Ukraine strains credulity. It doesn't make much sense. If the war goes on, continuing to sap the United States resources and resolve as China grows in strength in Asia, the argument will become increasingly absurd. So we've so far spent or committed more than because I don't know what's spent versus committed, 113 billion, give or take a few billion to Ukraine. We've also committed an entire host of weapons.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, this is just from the fact sheet, and Alex, you probably are super familiar with this, by the State Department, assuming we trust them. We have given the Ukraine over 1,600 Stinger missiles, 8,500 Javelin missiles, 54,000 other anti-armor systems and munitions, 100,000 rounds of small arms ammunition, 100 million, sorry.
Million.
Oh my gosh, I misread that.
You forgot some zeros.
Admonish me. Someone needs to admonish 100 million rounds of small. That's almost as many as you have on your Jefferson farm. And then hundreds of thousands of various other artillery. Does that sound about right as far as depleting our military, Alex?
Well, that's it. The United States is basically out of ammo.
Yeah.
And Russia's running out too, but as you said, they're gearing up. They're digging in.
Yeah.
And the war hawks are just licking their lips because, as you said, this is going to be, they're talking about $1 trillion defense budget.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just on defense.
Yeah. And we're depleted, and there was a recent grading that came out that said the United States military preparedness is at an all-time low as far as modern.
Well, and this is what pisses me off. The conversation that we had, Ginger Snap and I, it was a different conversation then, because if we could have ended this thing early, yes, end it. Right? Immediately. Russia moves in and takes Ukraine. Immediately get it taken care of. If you let it go on, everything that Alex just said happens, right? We deplete munitions. We make sure that we don't have anything to be able to fight a war. But we also push China into the arms of Russia because these guys are enemies. They're not naturally bedfellows, right? And now the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And so these guys are doing business together. That only makes it worse knowing that we're not going to put an end to this, that we're going to drag it out forever. And if you want to go take Taiwan, it looks like now's the right time to do it.
China?
Yeah. It just makes that.
And Taiwan actually matters to the United States more.
Yes.
Not saying that we necessarily need to get into a war, but if we wanted to be prepared for something that would affect the rest of the world, sorry, not you. We don't need Ukraine.
Yeah, but 80% of the
No.
trade going through the South China Sea.
Yeah.
And if you expand on that, Xi Jinping is literally there sizing up Russia and Putin's commitment to watch his flank when they move on Taiwan, and the word is they can move in the next few months.
Yeah, except Xi Jinping got stuck in a tree trying to get the honeybees.
Yes, he did. Oh, you're going to get in trouble for that.
And by the way, if you want an actual strategic plan, it would be better to look at something like what Governor Ron DeSantis, and by the way, him and Donald Trump actually agree a lot as far as it relates to Ukraine. This is one area where they share quite a bit of commonality. Where he said, while the U.S. has many vital national interests, securing our borders, addressing the crisis of readiness with our military, achieving energy security and independence, and checking the economic, cultural, and military power of the Chinese Communist Party, becoming further entangled in a territorial dispute between Ukraine and Russia is not one of them. And he understands, obviously, there are trade-offs, and Graham understands the Lockheed Martin checks. And this goes back to, Alex, when we were talking about, I was on your show. We were talking about sort of the issues here with why we went with Rumble. And please go over, and if you want to keep supporting what we do, like I said, join Mug Club. It's a month free. You get to see if you like it. If not, you can bounce. We constantly wonder, right? There's a lot of money in the conservative movement. We know that. There are plenty of people. There are a lot of billionaires. There are a lot of, and by the way, I'm not saying, a lot of them, their heart is in the right place.
Yeah.
But then you look at the people who represent you. We talked yesterday about Section 230. We talked about senators and congressmen and all this grandstanding, right? They have all of these Senate hearings, and then nothing actually gets done. When we had control of pretty much everything, the courts, the House, the White House, nothing was done with 230. You wonder why. Let me also ask you this. I've never met a Lindsey Graham fan. I've never met a Mitt Romney fan. I've never met a John McCain fan. I've never met a Paul Ryan fan. You're also hard-pressed to find a McCarthy fan. People say, okay, maybe win some, lose some. But the point is, how are these people always in the positions of greatest power within the party, and it completely disconnects with what you, the average American at home, actually believe? How is that the representative?
I have the answer.
I think you do.
It's called straight party voting. And they've been there 10, 20, 30, 40 years in the case of, the turtle, Mitch McConnell. And so it's just institutionalized that nobody really runs against them, or they've got 50 times the money if they have a primary challenger. The corporate media blocks them out. And so in very rare cases, we're able to take them out. With Trump, despite all his issues, he was able to ride in on the populist Tea Party wave that built with Ron Paul and you and so many others and myself, countless others promoting freedom. That's what scares the Republican and Democrat establishment, is that what Trump rode in on is what could take over a party. And so we actually have a two-party system again. The Democrats, the party of globalism and communism and collapse in the New World Order. And the Republican Party is a mix of neocons and blue bloods and the new populist vein that's almost taken it over. So we're very, very close to actually having two parties again in this country. And that's why the power structure and the uniparty so scared.
That's actually a very good point. We are close to having two parties again, because we'll say, man, the two-party system. No, we're not living with a two-party system right now. We are absolutely not. We really are in a uniparty system. The two-party system is certainly better than the parliamentary system. I come from Canada, where you can have Prime Minister Blackface get 30-something% of the vote. But I hope you like your weed as you sit in your 14-day quarantine in a camp.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.